All right, so we're going to go ahead and UV map the AUG here. And before we do that, we want to make sure that we select the model and press Control A and apply all transforms here. So you'll notice over here they're actually messed up just a little bit. So we're going to press Control A, all transforms, get it set up like so. And, and now we're ready to go. Make sure your model's cleaned up and all the hidden faces are deleted and any errors or anything else. You can fix it along the way if you run into problems as you're going. Just keep that in mind though. Now we can work in edit mode, and we're also going to be using the UV editing tab up here at the top. You're going to find that most of your UV stuff is right here in this little list and also over here. And there's also an in panel over here as well, so you can use that if you need to. Now, what I personally like to do is go into layout real quick, and I'm going to select the mesh and go into edit mode. I'm just going to start separating everything off the main body. So I'm going to select faces and press L, P, separate selection, L, P, separate selection, L, P, separate selection. And then we'll do this over and over again and again and again until everything's separated out and is not on the main body. That's all I'm worried about. Doesn't take too long to do that. It's really quick. All right, that should have been everything, I think. Take a look. We'll move this real quick just to make sure. And it looks like I've got that done. So, moving on. What we're going to do is start mapping it. We'll start with the barrel. Go here and view it. And the barrel was six-sided, I believe. Yeah, six-sided. And what I can do is now turn on X-ray with Alt-Z, grab here and go all the way to the front. Hold Alt and Shift and select the front, and I will right click and mark seam. Now doing this is, I think, the quickest and easiest way to unwrap, because if I go to the UV editing tab now, what you'll see is that I can select that whole mesh. I can press U and click unwrap. Now I unwrapped it over here, and it's a little wonky. It's a little bit weird looking, and that's okay. For the barrels, I usually straighten them out just by selecting an edge by pressing Alt and left clicking, and then I'll press S and I think it's X, right? Yeah, SX0, hit enter, and I'm going to do this on each one of these real quick, and that's probably one of the most mundane tasks we're going to get into right here, but we'll get this knocked out super quick. You want to try, oops, I forgot to press X. So you want to try to do this, carefully, and then we're going to do SY0 now. And so we're going to do SY0, SY0, over and over and over. But you want to try to do this fast so you don't get bored doing it. But at the same time, you don't want to rush through it too much, because you will run into problems and potentially make things worse. Some of this comes down to modeling. You want to make sure when you're creating your model, you're thinking about your UV maps and how they're going to be created and laid out. And so I just made this entire thing a straight cylinder in the UV map. Not a big deal. It will stretch a little bit, and that's just how it's going to be when you do it like this. Real quick, we're going to click New. We're going to call this Grid. It's 1024 by 1024. Right now it's generated blank. What we're going to do instead is do a color grid. Okay. Click OK. And you'll see we've created this like so, and our barrel is still in it. This panel here, the end panel, I leave it open because a lot of times I'll switch between blank and color. It just helps me get things done a little bit quicker. In the 3D view here, what you'll see is you can actually, on every mesh as we go through this, you can assign material 0. Just keep that material. Just click there. It should be a default material. And where it says base color, we're going to change it to image texture. Click the little yellow dot. That little yellow dot does it. Click image texture. Now we're going to click this little icon, and we're going to see grid right here. It's black right now, but we can turn it into the color one as well. Color one has all these numbers on it too, which is going to help us identify any kind of stretching. There's a checker pattern, etc. You can't see it in the view. What you have to do is click the little view tab here, the little arrow, it goes down. I like to turn off specular lighting, and what I'll do is also turn it to texture. Okay. Now what that allows me to do is look at this object with that color grid on it. And so it should look like little checker patterns all over it. You shouldn't see much stretching going on. If it's not looking like a uniform, like the picture here, it's something is going on with it. You can tell that it's changing size, like the G2 is bigger than the E2. It's changed size a little bit. It's a little bit of stretch right there, but overall it's very acceptable. And so that's why I have that there ready to go. And I can turn it between that one and that one at any time I want. So I can just kind of keep checking it as I go. Whenever I do a piece of the model, I will just press H and hide it. That way I don't see it no more, and I can keep moving on and go into the next one. Same process here. Another cylinder. Keep that view selected thing going. This is just one piece. Alt Shift. Mark seams. Select it all. Press U. Unwrap. And you can actually see this one unwraps much nicer because it doesn't have any of those deviations in the mesh where it changes sizes and whatnot. So we don't even have to do anything with this, and it's pretty much good to go. What I would do though is keep assigning the material to it, so that way we can always check the color grid and make sure it's doing everything we want it to. All right, and then once again, go back in object mode, press H and hide it, and we'll just go through this whole model. Different parts of the model will have different requirements when it comes to assigning seams. So this section here, actually I forgot to delete this face on top. You can't see it because it runs into the barrel, so I'm going to delete it. It's a good thing that I came back to check on this model, but there's like something like this, for example, there's other ways you can UV map, such as doing a smart UV project. If I click that, click OK, you'll see that it lays out each face however it chooses fit. So it does kind of do what it wants there. It's not actually that bad. Instead of separating everything though, I prefer being able to control it a little bit more. So I might create a cut here so that it will create a cut right here so that it'll fold out in two directions. So mark seam, press A, U, and then unwrap, and you'll see that it does this number. Oops, sorry. I gotta cut all the way up. And it might do something like that. It might look a little bit weird on different parts. That's just kind of what happens sometimes. So I might create another seam here. You can play around with this. You can always remove the seams and keep redoing it. So that's more about what I wanted it to do originally. Where it does that number. All right. Completely up to you on how you want to do it. I like to try to keep as much of a model together as I can so I know when I'm working on it which face goes to which. Because if I had a bunch of different faces, the way I put it all together at the end, it'll be hard to find each individual face. So I'll mark it with the material and I'll hide it. I'm pretty sure it's fine just by looking at the grid there. So it is, and now I can go back in object mode and press H and hide it. This grid in the background is kind of messing with me, so I'm going to turn it off. The grid floor and those, so a little bit cleaner of a view. Now we can really start coming in here and just going crazy. This one only needs one seam. I'm going to put it in the back. We're going to mark it. Press A, U, unwrap, and you can see that it does unwrap like so. Might be a little bit hard to see, but that's fine. So I can hide it. It's done. Same with this top one up here. It really just needs, this one's a little bit different because it has the face missing on the bottom, but there's a face on the top. I'm going to mark all four corners. I'm going to mark that as seams. Select it all, press U, unwrap. It was already UV map. Now it came in rotated. I might rotate it by pressing R4-5, and there you go. So that cleans that up. It's good to go now. I'm going to press H to hide it. This guy isn't as hard as it looks to unwrap. I'm going to press Alt and select a loop somewhere. I decided on that loop right there. And I'm going to press Alt and Shift and select the loop on the inside. I'm going to mark seam, press A, U, unwrap, and it's going to unwrap it like so. Now, you could leave it like this. I mean, this is kind of a small object, so it's not going to be a big deal, but if you do want to clean it up, just like we did with the barrel, you can certainly do that. Just press S, X, and 0, and go through the whole thing and do that. Before I would do that, though, I would actually kind of straighten it up a little bit more just by pressing R, starting to rotate, and holding Shift, trying to figure out the best up and down for it, because it's kind of off-centered. Okay, so yeah, something like that. There's no way, I don't think, to do a batch of edges. If there is, I need to figure it out, because it gets a little bit annoying doing S and Y like that. So just trying to clean everything up, you know, is SY0, SY0, Alt, select SY0. It's a repetitive pattern here. Wish there was like a flatten key. Probably could make a macro that does it, where it just goes to town. SX0. All right, so this will look good when we're done. And if you ever have questions whether it's going to work, we'll take a look at that color grid. It should look fun. So, color grid, apply material. All right, it may be a little bit distorted though, because there was a little bit of stuff going on in it. So a little bit of distortion isn't always a killer. It's just about generally getting there's a slight sway to it. That's not going to hurt you too much. It's not for something like this anyways. I'm going to go ahead and hide it, call that one done. So you can leave things slightly distorted. It's just how that works. This is a lot easier. Check this out. This is going to be fun. We're going to go from there to there and there to there. Okay. We're going to do the back side too, from here to there, here to there. So I'm holding Shift to select one and then Control to select all the way down. And then we have to do one side. So Shift selects that whole side. And I'm going to mark a seam, press A, select it all, press U, unwrap it. Maybe I didn't get it just right. See, something's going on there. What I need to do is mark here, and on the back side, mark those as seams as well. And there we go. You can see it did just like so. Now it's a little bit distorted looking. That could be because I left this side on. You could always just select that other side, mark the seam, try it again, see if it corrects it. And it's not really correcting it, is it? So what's going on here? It should have corrected it, but no, it's pretty good. Maybe it was just kind of like a optical illusion or something. So it looks right. It's right now, so no worries. That one is done. Apply the material to it, turn the color grid back on, turn off X-ray. You can actually go in and check it, make sure nothing's too distorted or too crazy. There's a slight bit of distortion to it on these edges, but overall, not too bad. That's usable. Same process here. Only difference is we're just going to select these edges here. There's nothing on the bottom, so we can just mark seam, select it, press U, and unwrap. And this one comes in just fine. You can see how that worked out. If we were to apply the material to it, you can see it's perfect. Press H. Wait, was I an object? Okay. Yeah, don't press H when you're not an object. It's going to be a little bit of a problem. This bottom one down here, not a big deal. There's a couple different ways you could lay this out. I'm just going to select these here and then press mark seam, select it all, press U, unwrap, and that way I get this little shape here. And that's a lot quicker and easier. It's going to have seams right in the front though. GR doesn't, I mean, you know, 3D modeling in general, you want to try to use as minimal amount of seams as possible and use them in areas where there's crevices or creases where you're not going to see them. Sometimes hard edges you can get away with it, but for GR, these models are so low poly, sometimes it's hard to create crevices and creases. So sometimes you got to put them out in plain sight. Fortunately, Blender will let you, it will let you texture paint. It has a clone stamp tool when you texture paint. So, I mean, you can use that. I'm going to blow this one out into separate pieces. So Alt-Shift, Alt-Shift. I don't want it to be one solid piece. I'm going to keep it all as one solid piece except one side. So the way this is going to work is this is going to become, okay, we'll have a front side or a back side, a front side. The right side will have the bottom on it, and then the left side will have just that. So we'll go ahead and mark it, press A, press U, unwrap, check it when it's blank. You can see it's done this number like so. It's actually got different sizes to each side. So let's try separating that real quick. We'll mark another seam there, see if it gives us a little bit different of a result. That looks more correct. Yeah, that looks much better. So we'll just roll with that. That seems okay. That seems fine. And we'll go ahead and apply the material to it. You can see that the numbers are readable. There's no stretching really. So that's really what you want. All right. Oh, let me hide it real quick so it's out of the way. And as you go through the model, once there's nothing left, you are finished. Same process here on this one. We don't need this, or this. We can mark seam, press A, press U, press unwrap. You'll see if we go here, it looks fine. All right, assign the material to it. We're going to go ahead and press H and hide it. So what are we left with? This front one here. It's basically a cylinder. So you can think of it as a cylinder, and when things are that basic of shape, I'll select one side down, and I'll, like the barrel, I'll cut it on that side, but it also has a bottom, so I'll cut it on that side. Mark seam, press A, press U, press unwrap, and if you take a look here, it unwraps like so. It's a little kind of a weird shape to it. I'm going to leave it like that because it is kind of a weird shaped object. Normally when you're trying to match up edges so you can hide seams, like if you're painting in that area or you're doing texture work in Photoshop, normally that's a killer, but with programs like Substance Painter or Blender where you can do texture painting or clone stamping, you can hide those pretty well. So don't worry about seams too much being too visible. It'll drive you nuts. Once again, color grid. You don't have to keep changing it to color grid each time. If you know it's good, then it's good. But if you need to check it, change it to a color grid. That on that one. Now, what do we got left? The main body, which I had an error right there actually. We'll go back and fix that in a second. It's like you get to double check everything as you're doing this pretty much. This piece here, I only want a seam here, a seam here, And fortunately, it selects it that way too. I want it to be able to fold out from the front, on the sides, the back. So it should make like a little hexagon or like a little cross shape or whatever. So press A, U, unwrap. And as I said it would do, it did it right there. Select it, rotate it 45. Or maybe I got to rotate it manually. I'm going to hold control and it should snap. Try to get it as flat as possible. Hold control and shift and rotate it, and it should snap. I'm almost positive that is correct. I'm going to check it, Joe. Check it, though, just in case. Yeah, it looks correct. There we go. There's another one done, and that is it. Now we're on to the main body. Now, I did this tutorial, and then I did it just like you've seen it right there, and lo and behold, when you get to the main body, it actually starts causing problems if you're to try to use seams to do everything. Normally, I don't have that much of a problem using seams for the main body. The trick is on this one, for whatever reason, this being the size it is with this geometry here, even when I separate all the geometry out, it really just kind of screws things up. And plus, the little bevels on the corners can be pretty rough as well to some extent. But you'll see how this works. I'm going to do small sections like backstrap, and then I'll do like the trigger area. I'll do this, and I'll make them into tiny little small sections all over the place, and we won't have any major problems. So we're going to select the whole thing. There is a couple different ways. Well, there's tons of different tools in here to unwrap. We're going to do a UV, smart UV project. This is when basically I'm not going to change the settings, but the algorithm in Blender tries to figure out how to make everything a flat face so that it looks good. I press OK, and you can see it does like so, and it's actually not too bad, right? That's pretty good looking. The trick here is I still want to make some changes. Oh, and before we move on to those changes, remember I said we had an error back here? Let's go ahead and take a look at this thing, figure out what it's doing. I'm going to dissolve this edge. I think I'm just going to dissolve these. It shouldn't be doing anything crazy, but for whatever reason, it wasn't. Might have cut over here too. It wasn't matched up. Oh, that was the wrong side. Okay. Oh, okay. You see what's going on here? I do. This needs to cut to there. Dissolve that edge. There we go. So yeah, sometimes you will run into problems that you didn't notice before. Just fix them as you see them, and then clean things up if you want, or optimize them, whatever the case may be. I'm pretty happy with this. So let's go ahead and do it. Select it all. We're going to do it one more time. Smart UV project. And make sure it gets in there just right. Now here's the trick. Turn the color grid on. We're going to apply the material. We need to check it as we go throughout. You can see the Smart UV project does pretty good at getting everything real flat. It doesn't really mess that up too bad. But there are some things I want to do that it probably maybe it just won't do it naturally, I guess. So we're going to go back to blank, select the whole thing. Now this section here, I'm going to move out real quick. So I'm using G to move and all that good stuff. But Alt V, press enter. And then on this side, Alt V, press enter. And that is going to pair those up. Okay. That's what I wanted to do. That's my personal preference. The rest of this is going to be all over the place and may or may not be what I want. Which piece is that? I think this might be the button I want. Maybe. Yeah, that's the button I wanted. I want to see which ones are which. So a little arrow, back and forth arrow. That's what I was curious. I was wondering what that was. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go back to color grid. This is going to seem a little bit abnormal, and it is kind of. This section here, I'm just going to press U and unwrap. It's going to do an unwrap on it. All the scales will change here in a second. This top section here, I want to combine it with this one. So I'm going to press Alt-V, press Enter. I need to press 1. See, I don't want it to do that, though. And I think that was... Okay. Yeah, that was... So you got to turn that on and off. But I want to select this, and I want to make it snap to vertex. Press G and Control. Oops, it's not doing that. I thought there was a snap setting in here too. Oh, there is. Look, right there. Snap to vertex. So G and Control. Snap it there. Snap it there. No biggie. I want this guy right here. Alt-V. Enter. I'm going to select that vertex and snap it here and snap it over here. If all went well, we should have a solid section on top now. And the bottom is just, all this is just going to have extra data, basically. So we can we'll start back to front. This whole section here is just part of the buttstock. We're going to press U, unwrap. We're not even going to worry about it as long as it looks like it is not deformed in any way. This bottom section here, I'm going to press U and unwrap. Now we're going to try this a little bit different. We're going to use the cursor selector, which you press C. You can use mouse wheel to make it bigger or smaller. Left click will select things. Middle mouse deselects. So I'm going to select all of this area here. And we're going to go right up to that section there. Perfect. Now we're going to press U, unwrap. I'm going to do the same thing over here. U, unwrap. U, unwrap. I just want to make sure they're all separated and they're being unwrapped the way I want them. U, unwrap. Actually, I might be able to... I don't know about that. See, this back strap is only right here. All of that can be unwrapped together, I think. So if I press U, unwrap, that'll be fine. That should be fine. That little piece coming down will be a little bit weird, but for the most part, it's okay. All right. This whole bottom section, we're going to make one solid piece. I do this on a lot of my weapons where I just I try to UV map them in like big chunks. I don't care if there's more seams. I just care if it's easier to find the piece I'm working on, usually. I think I'm going to take that one out. I don't know. I kind of want to manually add those all to this section. That might be a little bit of a problem. So we'll select it all the way up. It'll be all right. Just like that. We'll brush it together if we have to. There's not much going on, I think, in the texture at that point, but that's pretty high to be doing that, to be honest. So, like I said, when you're modeling, kind of pay attention to what you're doing and think about where your seams are going to go and how you're going to UV map it. So this area, I will select all of that and unwrap it. In this area, as well, unwrap. That's its own section for me. I don't care about that area that much. Unwrap. Okay. Now we can see here, here, all the way up. Just like so. Press U, unwrap. You'll notice they're nice and straight. Nothing wrong with that. These are also got unwrapped again, apparently. All the way around, unwrap. All right. I think we got most of it. This is a good time to save it, by the way. I'm going to just save over my old one, so it's pretty much the same thing. No. I just needed to select it. There we go. Just need to look it over real quick, figure out what's working and what's not. This is not a part of that, and this side is. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select that. We're going to press Y and then G, or select it in G. Move it out of the way real quick. I want to select this area. So we'll select all of it real quick. And this is on. Okay, so this is on this side. So we're going to press 2, select that edge, Alt V, press enter. I'm going to take this edge, rotate it, and move it like so. May not be perfect, but for now. This section needs one more, so Alt V, enter. Now we can grab the edge here, press G, Control, it should snap. We're going to move these two towards each other a little bit. Okay, so G, Control, snap, G, Control, and snap. And then also, this one I'm going to bring it out. That one can stretch more than this whole piece. All right, so you'll see that it does distort just a little bit. That's from doing it manually compared to their automatic version. You could go ahead and go back in here, and if you really wanted, you could try to nudge that back out correctly just by grabbing it, pressing G, and then kind of looking at it and figuring out what's going on there. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And this is kind of the old school method of UV mapping, where you watch everything do its thing. So this one might be too high. And we're looking at just the lines, you know, all the way across it. Fixing them up as needed. You can see that this back one distorted it too. A little bit. I think. Maybe it's this one. See how we can kind of nudge it back together. It's not really that one though. I think it's this one. Yeah. Yeah. So little corrections like that sometimes go a long way. I mean, it's not perfect, but um, you can minimize errors across the model a little bit, kind of nudge them together. Overall, I'd say we're the same on each side, so we're pretty much good to go. And this here is a little bit crooked. I might just go in here and rotate it a little so that it's up and down. All right. I'm not sure how much that makes a difference because what we're about to do kind of does whatever it wants in a second anyways. So what we're going to do is, if you noticed, and this is important, the entire model has different size numbers all over it. Some are really small, some are big, and the reason why is because they're using different amounts of this image. So we need to make them all uniform so that when you create a texture, it looks similar across the entire texture. Sometimes you can get away with making certain things bigger than others. So like this whole side here, we might want to make bigger than the other little parts of the model. And we can certainly do that, but we need to combine the model first. We need to press Alt-H, bring everything back. We're going to hide the reference again. You can see all together, it's now UV mapped. For the most part, we can select all of it. Just press A, Control J to bring it all back together. Go into edit mode. Okay, select the whole thing. And right here, we're going to do UV. And we are going to average island scale. Average island scale. Oh, it didn't do anything to the whole thing. So we got to select the whole thing. Press A, average island scale. And you'll see that all those numbers are now the same across it. Okay. They are now the same sizes. So it kind of knows what size everything is, and it goes back and it adjusts accordingly. You can grab all of it again and press U and also do pack islands. Okay, let's go into a blank here so you can see what's going on. You can use rotate or you can turn it off. It's kind of up to you on how you want to do it. I'm going to rotate it. And sometimes things might be a little too close together. You can change the margin here. I like to grab it and hold shift and just kind of bump it up just a little bit until I'm happy with the separation of different areas. Try to do that as little as possible. That's the trick there. 0.002, 0.007 is going to be a little bit better. Now, back in the day, see, things like this would drive someone that's texturing nuts. You used to pack everything yourself. You would come in here, and so you would take something, grab it, rotate 45 degrees, or wait, make sure I'm only grabbing that one. Rotate it 45 degrees, or whatever the case may be, and you would pack everything yourself so that it was always the right position and it always looked good. So something like that, texturing it with that weird degree there, that weird angle, would be a little bit of a problem. A little trick about this is as you're rotating, hold shift, and if you don't have too much anti-aliasing on, or whatever it's called, you can see where the when it starts to straighten out, and there won't be any jaggedness to it. It's kind of a fun way to do that, I guess. It's an old school trick. And yeah, so we're looking at a completely UV modeled, or UV map now model. Check it with the color grid if you want. Save it. Go into layout. You can also change it over to texture here and turn the specular lighting off. turn transparency off. I'm going to save it and just kind of look at it, see if you find anything that really looks bad. You can always go back and correct that specific piece. I think we got an issue right here. It looks like an issue, big time. So let's go ahead and figure out what just happened with that. That's not normal. We just worked on that section too. Now it's all goobered up. All right, back to UV editing we go. Trying to figure out why this is the way that is. So I'm going to grab it, press Y, separate it, pull it out real quick. I need to see, I'm going to select everything and see why it disappeared on my model. I guess it wasn't attached technically to the mesh. That's going to be my best guess right now. And that is why it did not go where it's supposed to. So we're going to try Alt-V, press Enter, and that would probably be what happened right there. It did not attach to the other vertices. So if I press G, yeah. There's a way to merge those together in here too. No, we're not doing that. Oh, it's just merge the same way. Sorry, I didn't realize that. Just want to make sure it's merging though. And it looks like it is, so sometimes you run into little issues. You got to figure them out. Once you get them fixed, you're good to go. Just going back over all those real quick. Color grid again. I'm going to save it. Make sure I save it. Get the full screen view again. This side doesn't look too bad. Nope. And that's why the color grid helps, because it will help you identify little things that happen that are weird. You can see it's back to normal now. I wish it was a little bit straighter over there. Right here. It's not horrible, but it's not perfect. Yeah, after you spend all that time modeling, you want to get everything perfect, right? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say that is done. We are done with UV mapping. We could go ahead and start texturing now, but I'm going to leave that up to you. I will be doing a texturing video as well on how I texture this. It is, it's still a pretty lengthy process, but generally speaking, weapons for Ghost Recon, the backstrap doesn't need much detail. The hand's in the way. This doesn't need much detail. There's all kinds of, you don't really see up in there too often, maybe like right here. The butt stock you'll see every now and then. So, different parts of this weapon, some gets detail, some doesn't. It's completely on you on whether you're going to, how much time and effort you're going to put into the texture work. But until the next video, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.